Hello, and here we are with another piano Pandemictivities video. It sounds like we're going to be under these conditions for a while, so no hurry. Let's take our time and think about some music. So, since we're not in any hurry to make our way through anything, we can just choose another Cimarosa sonata and have a look at it. So, this one is the same volume linked in the description, and it's on page 14, the E flat andantino. So, take a look at it here. Now, this is a modern edited volume, and so you have editors putting in things that Cimarosa probably never contemplated. I mean, yes, in the time of Cimarosa, they were thinking about dynamics, and those were possible on some of the keyboard instruments, but some of this stuff like dolce, espressivo, cantabile, that may or may not be part of it. I'm not all that worried about which of these markings are original and authentic for purposes of what I'm doing today. If I were really researching this music, I would go find an original edition in Urtext, but that's not what's important right now. What's important is just to interact with some music and think about the possibilities. So I'm going to look at how it's marked up, phrasing and articulation, and consider whether to do that or whether there are other possibilities. So first of all, a little bit of reading. So that's most of the first page. So let's take a look at what is going on here and whether we have any thoughts about it. First of all, the harmonic progression, if you have studied improvisation or partimento, this will be immediately familiar as a Romanesca chord progression. Standard, ubiquitous, very, very well-known progression. We're not going to dig into that here. If you want to know more about that, visit us at Improv Planet, and you can find out all about Romanescas. But anyhow, often Romanesca has a lovely kind of pastoral quality that's very suitable for this sort of slow contemplative movement. I'm thinking about how to get this glorious lyrical sound, and this edition marks the left hand as legato, and of course it's certainly possible to do that. But it also makes me think of an orchestration where that could be pizzicato. That's kind of cool to juxtapose those two different ideas. So even though that's not in the score at all, that does occur to me as an interesting possibility. If there's only one way to play a score, then we should program a robot to do that and record it and put it on a hard drive cased in titanium and bury it underground in concrete, and we can all listen to it online and we can all quit playing. The idea that there's only one way to play to me is like a misunderstanding of what music is. Music is for people to do and enjoy together. And so the idea that there's one correct way and everything else is sort of forbidden, it strikes me as really, really odd and kind of anti-human. So, I think that's all very, very silly. Anyhow, so that, the pizzicato left hand is possible. Another thing that's interesting here is these little two-note slurs that we have here. And traditionally, if in fact these are original with Cimarosa, and I don't know that, I'd have to go across the lake and get the original edition. I'm just lazy and it's raining. And I'm trying not to see people. But assuming these two-note phrases are original, the idea of the two-note phrase is strong-weak, even if it lies incorrectly with the metrical position. So this is the and of 2 to 3 and the and of 3 to 1. That's weak to strong, rhythmically, metrically, but it's strong to weak if you take the phrasing. So it's always very interesting to look at these phrasings and try them strong, weak, even when it doesn't fit. And often you'll find that it's very interesting musically. So let's do that. And I think it comes out a little clearly if we do the pizzicato bass. Like this. And with legato bass. So that da, da, dum, da, dum, syncopated phrasing is really quite interesting. Is that absolutely, the correct thing? I don't know. I'm just trying stuff, seeing what happens. So those are some interesting little ideas for this opening 6 bars. Then we get here, boom, 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 boom. And we do have it marked staccato again, original or not, I don't know. I really should go get that edition. This is fun. That's very nice, very charming. How else could we do it? Yeah, I might add some octaves occasionally. I really think about this music from an orchestral perspective. How does the sound kind of change as you bring in different instruments? And the bass has gone from 8th notes to 8th notes with a rest, and so I might want to point that out maybe by a very subtle octave doubling, just to show this is different. The sound has changed. Again, the what's happening harmonically here. This is can be analyzed a couple of different ways. Because so much of this Italian galant music is in such a sparse texture, it's only 2 voices or 3 voices, but especially when it's 2, you don't have very many complete chords. So you have to look at what the 2 voices are implying is the harmony. So everything's kind of a gray area as far as what's happening harmonically. But we have this descending bass. Okay, that together with those 2 things together, descending, that's often what's called a printer in schemata theory. And again, if you want to know about schemata theory, you'll have to look further than what we're going to do in this video. Okay, then we get this rising thing. this is a good example of what Rachmaninoff said when he declared big line, big musician, small line, small musician. That's on the wall right over there. I'm not going to turn the camera, but there it is. And what we have is these 16 notes. And if you look at the beaming, that's what you get. You get this little unit, and then this little unit, and this one. But what's really happening is, and go to there, and go to there, and go to there, and go to there, and go to there. See, it's all part of this one long building line, and it's going over the beat. It's not contained within the 16th note beaming. It's jumping to the next group of 4. That's like the way it's reaching. So we play it kind of like this, and this time I'll do it with the octaves. All right, as opposed to. See, if I play like that, it's very clear I don't hear this and go to there and go to there and go to there quality. So that passage is a good example of this. Then, like so much music from this era, we are in the dominant key. We're in B flat, and we're just going to play the Romanesca now again, and we could do our pizzicato thing or our legato thing. Either way, let's do pizzicato for now. Strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak. That wasn't really weak, but anyway. And here it only happens one time because we've already done it twice in the home key. So now. Have this long episode in C minor, and it is marked all with staccato left hand. Hopefully that won't get tiresome. Let me do it again. Sorry, that was off my screen. Aha, that's cool. Okay, so I definitely want to show that. And there we are back home again. So. This little middle section in C minor really strikes me as something that probably should all be rather forward moving. I think it would be easy to get stuck and boring in this. You hear how awful that is? So first of all, I need to keep the left hand light and maybe just show this sense of 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. Try to show a little direction, but most of it's going to come from the right hand. This is cool because it's the recapitulation, but the parts have traded places. It's very nice. It's very skillful. So instead of here, this, we have this. Now I don't think it's going to sound good to do the right hand pizzicato here. You could disagree. Maybe it could work. If I did that, I would definitely voice the top of these left hand thirds, because I want to hear that voice, not that equal sound, because it's not very clear. You hear the clarity of the G, D, okay. And then from there I'd probably voice to the right hand at that point. So we might get something like this. Do that again. Just to keep the ear going and listening to the stuff that's important. Now what do we have? We have this little figuration. Yeah, that going to this makes me want to play it as delicately as I can, because, you know, what do I have here? Just this arpeggiation of this harmony, you know? No, it's not melodically that interesting, it's not harmonically that interesting, but it could be interesting as a texture, you know, as this, just as a chunk of sound that's so different from what has come before. That could really be kind of cool. Could I even play the right hand staccato, I wonder? Interesting question. I'm not super convinced by that. Maybe something else. Left hand very staccato, but right hand. That's maybe better. Okay, are those the most epic passages ever made? No, but that last attempt, I think, I find it more satisfactory than anything else. So, you know, with these little pieces, especially when they get all Alberti, you know, they get going with just some pattern, you really have to make sure that the main thing the listener hears is not the clunkiness of classical patterns. Classical patterns, at their worst, have this ridiculous kind of toy piano clunkiness, this chitty bang bang quality, you know. Just this awkward mechanical thing. And the thing to remember about, you know, this kind of stuff is that a great deal of the keyboard figuration of this time is derived from instrumental and particularly string writing. You know, a guy like Cimarosa, he's got his little collection of sonatas, for sure. But what he's known for, and the vast majority of what he wrote, is opera. That was the gig, write operas. And so, you know, you think about an opera, you might have one singer or you might have a chorus, but you're always writing for multiple layers of strings. You know, usually 4 to 6 parts for strings. Even if it's just a solo singer, one line, you have multiple layers of strings. So how much of Cimarosa's life was spent writing for strings? A lot. Likewise, Mozart, you know, the number of notes he had to write for strings was vastly more than the number he had to write for the keyboard. So I think a lot of these kind of habitual string patterns end up in the keyboard literature, like this. And this idea where you're going back and forth between two locations, especially this kind of stuff. The 7/6s that are just being played like this. That's known as bariolage. And it's the idea that you have these two strings next to each other and they may be quite a ways apart intervallically, and you can go back and forth between them with the bow very quickly. So, bariolage. And so you can imagine this is one string and this is another string, and it'd be very easy to play. So that is all to say that the sound of these patterns that comes from strings is not going to be clunky and percussive. It's actually going to be quite resonant, especially because the strings are an ensemble and they have that warm ensemble sound. So I'm always looking for a way to make these things sound a little bit more ensemble-ish, you know. Instead of that kind of sound. You can't just be, well, let me rephrase. If you're just trying to get all the notes at a, you know, intermediate level, you're doing this just for joy, bless you. If you can just get all the notes, that's great. That's worth celebrating. I'm momentarily just talking more to performers and professionals and students at conservatories about the idea that just the fact that you got the notes is not necessarily the end of the road. We have to think about the quality of sound in those patterns. So anyway, a little history there on bariolage and keyboard figurations. Okay, anyhow, that's really quite a charming little piece. What would I do ultimately? I don't know. I'd have to play it a few times and decide what really works. But, you know, I'm kind of taken with this. Dig that sound. So maybe I would do that. Such are the things we come across when we practice easy pieces as Pandemictivities. So take a look at this one if you like it. Try some different sounds. See if you can make a sweet little gorgeous sound on that Romanesque progression. And we'll see you next time. Take care. Be safe. Be strong. Ciao.